The Other Side with Charles Butler. Weekday evenings, 7 until 10 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
We have on the line Chairman Michael Steele, Chairman of the Republican Party. Welcome, Chairman Steele.
How you doing, my friend? It's been a while. You hanging in there?
Of course.
Good.
Yeah,
good to be with you.
Good to have you. You know, by the way, I just want to congratulate you on this successful midterm election.
Well, thank you. It was a really interesting opportunity for the party, and I'm really grateful for the hard work of our chairman and national committee men and women around the country who just really put down the gauntlet and laid out a good plan that the national committee could invest in and support and to help us win races from Illinois to Florida to California to Maine. So it's been a great effort, and it culminated in some spectacular wins.
Yeah, when you have a big bus driving around the country 18,000 miles talking about fire Pelosi, I guess she's not laughing now.
Yeah, no, she's not laughing now. Look, we had a very simple objective here, so it was really straightforward. Let's go to the root cause, and the American people, I think, felt the same way. And but now the onus is on the Republican leadership. They've got to come to the table with a concise plan. They cannot come off as obstructionists and objectionists just for the sake of objecting, but really kind of lay out clearly. Look, the country has said to us, let's move in a different direction. It's one thing if they've given us 35 seats or 36 seats. But to get close to 64 seats is an enormous statement by the people of this country, and we've got to now honor that by making sure we step up our game.
Well, they said that you have to go back to the 1920s to see this large of change in members of the House. Yeah,
no, it's historic in many proportions, and we look at 60 plus seats in the House, 6 governors, 6 U.S. senators. We flipped 21 state legislatures from Democrat to Republican, which will have the impact of a very positive impact on the redistricting process in 2011 and 2012. So the impact and ramifications of this election are huge, and they're deep. And we cannot squander the opportunity. We have been given this chance by the people. They've invested in us through their vote, and now we've got to come out clearly, concisely, and prepared to lead.
There's some things that are floating around in the media. This one article written by Eugene Robbins, I think it's Eugene Robbins, that talks about the president getting a bad deal because he's black. And I'm going, wait a minute. I haven't seen that in this election. I haven't seen that in the last 2 years, that anyone's talking about his race as being a factor in their opinions of his policies. It's like we need to have some basic civics lessons in this country about how politics works. I hear people talking about, well, he's the commander-in-chief and we need to follow him blindly wherever he goes. That's not the democratic system.
Well, that's not what they said about George Bush. They followed him to the water's edge, and then they started protesting. So the reality of it is, you don't want any one individual to amass the kind of blind loyalty that you don't question, you don't challenge, you don't push. I don't care if they're a Democrat or a Republican. The reality of it is, folks have got to be cognizant of the power of the presidency, the obligations of the presidency, and where the policies of the president do not curry favor with the people, then the people are going to speak out. That's what the Tea Party movement has been about. That's what town hall movements have been about. That's what this organic movement of people around the country has been about. So, I get this notion that, we want to support our president right on. But at the end of the day, when the policies don't work, then you are obligated as part of your civic duty to do something about it, to either get them to change course or vote out those who support those policies.
Well, I noticed that when the Republicans or some of the Tea Parties were saying we want to take our country back, meaning, i.e., we want to take our country back to the center, we want to get big government out of our life. We want to get control on federal spending. Even the president converted that into they're going to put you in the back of the bus. Right. They're your enemies. I've never heard this kind of speech coming from the president. Maybe the quacks on the left and on the right, but not from real political people who are, who we look to as political players in our process.
I tell you that the president's philosophical orientation is rooted in the left, and that's fine. That's great. Folks cannot be surprised by where his mindset is, number one. Number two, the hot rhetoric proves again, as many of us said in 2008, and certainly since then, this is one of the most partisan presidents that we've had in a long, long time. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It just is.
Yes, exactly.
Need to chill on that point and accept the fact that he is. And, okay, great. But it still boils back down to the one thing that the Democrats got kicked in the can for on Tuesday. When you go down the road of big government, big debts, big deficits, big spending, big programs, and the people are hemorrhaging jobs, their homes are being foreclosed on, they can't put their kids in school, that is a toxic mixture for any political figure or party when the people decide enough is enough.
Mr. Chairman,
you saw that played out on Tuesday.
That's true. Now, Mr. Chairman, I keep hearing the president say, I inherited this mess. However, what he fails to say is that President Bush and Treasurer Paulson conferred with he and Tim Geithner about moving forward on the putting the stimulus package through. He and John McCain and his team. Before they moved forward, they said, yeah, you got to do it. So he did it. So he took the heat for doing that. Then Mr. Obama and his team, they put another stimulus package in when he comes into office. Now, he makes the same mistakes. In fact, he hires the same people who got us in this mess. Tim Geithner was the president of the New York Federal Reserve who approved all of the loans, all of the bonuses for the folks on Wall Street.
Yeah.
And he sat there like a little elf, and he didn't say anything. He couldn't even get people to come work for him.
It says something about selective memory and the fact that, again, the hypocrisy, the arrogance of power, the fact that your body language and your actions basically say, do as I say, not as I do. That's a turnoff to people right now. And I appreciate, after having spent 6 weeks on a bus around the country, this attitude that people have now that, you know what, we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we're especially frustrated with the leadership that discounts our views and moves in its own direction, not in a direction we want it to go to. So when you have a Geithner and all these guys who are brought in, they're part of an intellectual elitism that is fashioned out of Barack's administration.
Out of his campaign contributors.
Exactly. And people get it. And so, this has probably been the most grassroots movement of people in generations.
Well,
the test down is what happens next.
Well, I think that if the president had done several things, Mr. Chairman, several things. One, freeze the banks from foreclosing on homes who had accepted TARP monies. One.
Right.
Two, you mentioned, Mr. President, that we need more manufacturing jobs in America. You didn't put forth one policy on bringing those jobs back, i.e., raise tariffs, i.e., cut the tax benefits to people who are not who are giving jobs to China and closing jobs here. There are a number of things that this president, just simple things that he could have done that would have made him a hero to the American people. Period.
The Other Side with Charles Butler. Weekday evenings, 7 until 10 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.